We're proceeding with private member statements. I call the member for Balmain.
Thank you very much, Mr Temporary Speaker. This evening I rise in response to the efforts of so many people in my local community to speak out in support of Julian Assange, Wikileaks and Bradley Manning. I'm incredibly proud of the work of the activists in my community and around New South Wales, the work of my federal Greens colleagues, trade unionists, journalists, jurists, just to name a few, who are a small part of a huge international movement to support human rights, whistleblowers and, above all, to promote openness, transparency and truth in government. Just this week, we voted for the former Premier of this state to fill a vacancy and thus become a federal senator. The Prime Minister has declared that she will immediately move him to the front bench and he will then become Foreign Minister. By all accounts, Bob Carr is a man of strong intellect and great conviction. But he takes on a role in a government that has failed to do what we would all expect of a government if we were overseas.
Good comments.
Today I'm calling on Bob Carr to do the right thing, to reject the appalling position that the Australian government has taken and be an advocate for Julian Assange. It now seems that Mr Assange is facing the prospect of the enormous resources of the US justice system to be levelled against him. The Australian Greens in the Federal Parliament and I here in this State Parliament are demanding the Australian Government take action to ensure Wikileaks Editor-in-Chief Julian Assange's legal and consular rights are upheld, a request that we should all take for granted. There is now potential for him to be transferred to the United States, and we are concerned that our government has done very little to investigate the secret US grand jury investigation into Wikileaks, which could lead to his extradition to the United States. Now, we know the Australian government has even considered charging Assange with treason, but later retracted its previous statements that his actions were criminal. The Australian Prime Minister, Julia Gillard, failed to support Assange after calling the leaks, quote, an illegal act, and even suggested that his Australian passport should be cancelled. But as we know, the government backtracked from these decisions in the face of international and national pressure. Now, Australia's new Foreign Minister should be asking our friends in the United States about this secretive grand jury process, the evidence and the motivations for such an unprecedented targeting of an Australian citizen. Emails leaked from the US intelligence consultant Stratfor have confirmed that the US government has a grand jury indictment for Mr Assange. The Australian government should be making a strong public stand to support an Australian citizen abroad who has been subject to the most extraordinary attacks and threats for simply exposing the truth. And the attacks don't stop directly on Julian Assange, but there have now been attempts to financially cripple Wikileaks in order to keep the secrets of what we hear as a diplomacy, war, the reality behind the corporate world and the intelligence community, and what passes for politics in many places of the world far from the view of the public. Funding institutions such as Visa, MasterCard, PayPal, Western Union and Bank of America have refused to handle payments for the organisation. So I encourage members here in the wider community to visit Wikileaks' website, www.wikileaks.org, and donate to ensure their important work can continue, and call on those firms that are engaging in the financial blockade to reverse their attempts to suppress the work of Wikileaks to promote openness and transparency in government. I cannot mention the work of Wikileaks without addressing the plight of Bradley Manning. Bradley Manning is a 23-year-old Army intelligence analyst and is alleged to have leaked video documents and cables demonstrating human rights abuses by the US military and their contractors, spying and bribery, as well as the now notorious collateral murder video. This video showed the killing of civilians, including 2 Reuters journalists by a US Apache helicopter crew in Iraq. The collateral murder video showed the world the real face of war, innocent people brutally killed. It was a powerful moment which was an important part of the efforts to force the withdrawal of troops in Iraq. Now, not a single person has been harmed by the release of this information, unlike the amount of deaths that we have seen in the information that has been released. And although Bradley has not been tried, he was held in solitary confinement for the first 10 months of his incarceration. During this time, he was denied meaningful exercise, social interaction, sunlight, and had occasionally been kept completely naked. And a country with such a proud rhetoric as the United States should be supporting and protecting whistleblowers, not subjecting them to treatment, which the UN rapporteur has described as, quote, cruel, inhuman and degrading treatment, end quote. I encourage members to visit bradleymanning.org, www.bradleymanning.org, for more information on this important position. So, Mr Temporary Speaker, can I conclude by saying that I trust the former Premier of this state will now take on his role as a Foreign Minister and act to defend the dignity of all of those people in Australia and abroad and protect the human rights of Assange, promote justice, openness and transparency in the world.
Thank you. Private members' statements having concluded, and in accordance with the standing and sessional orders, the House now stands adjourned until Tuesday the 13th of March 2012 at 12 noon.